In the initial scene, a news report airs about the criminal Colin Evans, played by Idris Elba. After serving a 5-year sentence for manslaughter and the killing of a man and 5 women, he's seeking parole. Colin presents his case to the parole board, expressing remorse for his actions and readiness to reintegrate into society. However, the board chairman dismisses his testimony, labeling Colin as a malignant narcissist and violent offender, and denying his parole based on the impact his release would have on the victims' families. While being transported back to prison, Colin feigns a bloody nosy and seizes the guard's gun, prompting a standoff with the driver. Despite being ordered to surrender, Colin persuades the driver to lower his weapon and then proceeds to shoot both the guard and the driver, making his escape. The story shifts to Terry Granger, portrayed by Taraji P. Henson, who juggles caring for her baby Sam, conversing on the phone, supervising landscaping work, and monitoring her daughter Ryan's activities. Terry's friend Meg, played by Leslie Bibb, observes her overwhelming schedule and suggests a girls' night to alleviate the stress. Later, Terry's husband Jeffrey, portrayed by Henry Simmons, returns home and prepares for a trip to his father's birthday celebration. Despite professing his love for Terry, his demeanor indicates impatience and lack of support. Colin is currently in Atlanta, Georgia, driving a van and following a woman named Alexis, Kate Del Castillo. He observes her meeting a man outside a cafe, where Alexis embraces him. Colin breaks into Alexis's home before her return and confronts her about not waiting for him after his release. He presents a note that reads, "Didn't want to wake you up because you look so beautiful when you sleep." Frightened, Alexis tries to escape, but Colin blocks her path. She runs to a room where Colin forces her to confess that she was involved with another man. The words echo in his mind, and he places his hand on Alexis's throat. He snaps her neck and viciously assaults her with a lamp. Later that night, a severe storm begins to brew. Terry prepares her children for dinner. Colin crashes his van into a tree after swerving off the road. He walks until he reaches Terry's residence. He rings the doorbell and she answers. Colin asks to use the phone to call for a tow truck. After purportedly making the call, he informs Terry that the tow truck will arrive later. Terry invites him inside and tends to a cut on his forehead. Colin behaves charmingly and courteously toward Terry and her son Ryan. Terry serves Colin tea and inquires about his relationship status. He mentions having had an ex-fiancée who cheated on him. Meg brings wine and is attracted to Colin. They share the wine, and Meg comments on how Terry used to be a wild girl and asks Colin if that's a surprise. He responds that it is not. While Terry checks on her kids, Colin asks Meg where he can smoke. She directs him to the garage and joins him for a smoke. Meg asks him if there's something going on between him and Terry. He smiles and remains silent, leading Meg to suspect her friend of having an affair. Colin suggests that Terry is keeping things from Meg, which angers her and prompts her to confront Terry until Colin takes a shovel and kills Meg with it. He then drags her body to the side. Terry approaches Colin to inquire about Meg's whereabouts. Despite his claim that Meg has already left, Terry notices her umbrella still positioned by the coat rack. When she attempts to call Meg, she discovers that the phone lines have been cut and all the knives are missing from their holder in the kitchen. Upon ascending the stairs, Terry finds Colin playing with Ryan, and then notices a gun concealed in the back of his pants. Terry demands that he release Ryan, and as they exit the room, she grabs the fire extinguisher and sprays Colin before striking him over the head, causing him to tumble down the stairs. In an attempt to protect her children, Terry rushes to them, but Colin swiftly regains his composure and instructs her to release Sam and accompany him. She barricades the door to the kids' room, prompting Colin to brandish his gun and warn her against further defiance. He escorts her to the bathroom and compels her to stand in the shower as he cleans himself. Subsequently, he forces Terry to undress and change attire, leading her to believe he intends to assault her. However, as she urges him to proceed, Colin dismisses her assumption. In a bold move, Terry seizes a lamp and strikes Colin on the head, managing to stab him in the side. Despite her effort to reach her children, Colin once again outpaces her. Colin compels Terry to take her children to her car so they can escape. While passing through the garage, Terry notices Meg's bloodied body lying on the side. On the road, Terry spots a police officer and discreetly signals him with the headlights when Colin isn't looking. The officer tails them and instructs her to pull over. Colin takes Sam and feigns consoling him. The officer becomes suspicious when Ryan inquires about her father. Terry exits the vehicle and attempts to remain inconspicuous as Colin eavesdrops. The officer observes Terry repeatedly glancing at the car and deduces that something is amiss. He orders Terry to stay still as Colin exits the car and fatally shoots the officer, then rolls the man's body down the hill. Colin forces Terry to drive to Alexis's house, where he brings her to the room where Alexis's body lies. He then ties up Terry, but is interrupted when her car alarm goes off. Alexis's cell phone rings, and Terry, managing to free herself, answers to find Jeffrey on the line. Despite Jeffrey's claims of repeatedly calling for Alexis, it becomes clear to Terry that the call is from him. This leads Terry to realize that Colin had found Jeffrey's name and address on a note by Alexis's bed earlier that day, and that his presence at the house was no coincidence. He was seeking revenge. Terry informs Jeffrey of Alexis's death and urges him to call the police. She then rushes to retrieve the children, but encounters Colin returning to the house. Terry hides the children in a closet and goes upstairs, arming herself with a knife. Colin nearly discovers the children, but Terry manages to distract him. As he confronts her in the bedroom, a struggle ensues. Colin attempts to strangle Terry, but she defends herself by jabbing him in his side wound with her keys and striking him with a heavy object. He briefly loses consciousness, only to regain it and overpower Terry. She seizes Colin's gun and shoots him multiple times, causing him to fall out of the window to his demise. The police arrive at the scene, accompanied by Jeffrey. As Jeffrey spots Terry, he approaches her with an apology. However, Terry's response is far from forgivable. She delivers a powerful punch to his face. Time passes, and Terry has found a new residence for herself and the children. Despite the changes, she continues to hold onto a picture of her and Meg. While navigating her new life, Terry forms a bond with a new friend who lends a hand in caring for the kids. Together, they enjoy taking the children to the park on a bright and sunny afternoon.